Hello everyone, I am Codey. As you all know, I love coding. Today, I am here to show you the basic concepts of JavaScript. Let's start. Let me first share my screen. Alright, today let's talk about primitive data types. These are the most basic building blocks of data. Think of them as the simplest forms of values you can use in your code. There are 7 primitive types, as you see here. One is string, number, bigint, boolean, undefined, null, and symbol. We are going to examine each of them one by one. Okay, let's start with string. So here already we have a string example. String, as you know, is used for text. You define strings using quotes, like single quotes. Here's an example of single quotes. We can also use double quotes, like this. Or we can use backticks, like this. Backticks here. Yes. Okay. This type of single notation, what I mean with backticks, is called template literal in JavaScript. Template literals were introduced in ECMAScript 6, which is published in 2015, and are a more powerful and flexible way to work with strings compared to traditional single or double quotes. Template literals, as I already mentioned, are enclosed by backticks instead of single and double quotes, but there are many useful features, like we can directly embed parameter in them. Like I can define a parameter like this, and then I can maybe just let me use the same lock expression. We can directly embed parameter by use this specific syntax with $sign. Now, this name variable already embedded into the lock, and as you see, our lock is already here. Let me just clear the and let's run. Okay, as you see, already the name is embedded here. It is even possible to embed expressions. Let me just show you an example. Here, if I define a number like this and another number like this, we can even add expression like this. And as you see, it's already locked as 12. So already the expression also is run in this specific syntax. So this is one feature. There is also another good useful feature of template literals. We can very easily define multiple line strings. Let me give you an example for this. Here, I define a string with multiple line. Let me show you. That spans multiple lines. Okay, when we lock this string, very beautifully, we see that it's also spanned into multiple lines, as you see in the console log. So backticks what I mean the template details, very useful feature of JavaScript. The second primitive type is number. So number, here we already give an example of number. Here we already have an example with numbers. You see this A parameter and B parameter in B variable are already defined as numbers. As a third one, we have big int. Actually, big int is also a number, but we use big int type for really big numbers. By the way, for numbers, I just want to mention one more thing. Not only integers like this, but we can also define floating numbers like this, or we can even define, obviously, negative numbers. So if we return to big int are for big numbers, as its name implies. So but there are a specific syntax to define them. So we define them like this: big number, example, let's say big number here. Here we can directly define a very big number like this. The only thing we need to do is to put an at the end. So now we define a big number. Another way to define a big number is like this. We can directly use the big number constructor, but this time we don't need to use n at the end. So because we use here the constructor big number. The other type is Boolean. Boolean is already exists in every programming language. So there are only two values. One value is true, obviously, and the other value is false, like this. Sorry, I couldn't write it. Yes. Then we come to undefined. Undefined means when a variable is defined. Undefined means when a variable is declared but hasn't been assigned a value yet. So if I give you an example for this one, now when I do this, actually x is undefined. And when we look at the null values, null actually represents an intentional absence of value. It's like saying, I know this exists, but it has no value. So it is very similar, it is a little similar and it can be confused a bit with undefined variables, but actually there is this difference. With undefined, we define, but we don't put any value. But with null, we define the parameter, but we put a blank value. So there is a value for null. Null is a value. When there is a null variable, when there is a variable with a null value, actually null is a value, but this value represents nothing. Undefined, on the other hand, has no value. So they are similar, but they are not the same. So in order to have a null variable, we should actually assign the null value like this. Okay, now let's examine symbol. Symbol variables are introduced in ECMAScript 6. It's a unique symbol is a unique identifier. No two symbols are the same, even they have the same description. What I want to say is this. Let me clear my screen first. Okay, and also let me clear the console as well. Okay, now I can just create a symbol like this. Description, I can give any description I want here. And I can also define a second symbol like this. again, I can give you the same description, okay? So both of them are using the same description, but these are not same. What I mean, when we do strict when we do strict equality like this, we are going to have actually the value of, now you will see, let me rerun this. We will have false value, because not only they values equal, but also their type also are not equal. This is very interesting feature of symbols, because when we do two numbers like this, okay, when we do two numbers like this, actually they are, when we do this, we are going to obtain the true value here, okay, because when we define two variables with the same values, then for JavaScript, actually these are the same type as well, because as you know, strict equality shows the equality not only for the values but also for the type of the variable. So when this is true, when this returns true, that means the two variables first have the same values, but also they have the same type. So here, as both of them are numbers, that's why when we put true equal like this, we obtain the value true. But this is not the case for symbols, because symbols are very interesting. They are different than the other variables types. So even if we use the same description, it does not matter. They are always different for when JavaScript interpreter interprets them. So by the way, I say JavaScript interpreter because actually JavaScript run obviously in browsers, but apart from browsers, we can also use Node.js or other server-side JavaScript interpreter in order to run and execute JavaScript code. Yes, so symbols, for each symbol actually have a different type, despite they are all symbols, but for JavaScript, they are always a different type. So what is the usage of symbols? Actually, symbols are very useful when we need to use a server application as a client application. What I mean, if many different client applications need to use the same code pieces, the same web service, maybe I should say, then symbol will be very useful. Let me define an example for this. Let's say our server has a user object, okay, like many server actual applications would have, and it can have its own server ID, okay, and also obviously name like Alice, and also age 25. Okay, so for server, the value of ID is server ID, but as a client application, if I need to use my own IDs, because as an external system, probably I use a different ID. I already not only by the value, but also I have a different kind of definition for IDs in my application. So that's why when as a client application, if I need to use this code, but if I shouldn't actually overwrite the server ID, we can very easily define our ID while we are connected to this server like this. We can define our ID here like this. This way, we can, instead of using the server ID, we can directly use our ID. That way, the server ID will be secure and will not be deleted, because as you will see here, if I do, okay, for server it's already server ID. For me, it is my ID. So that's why symbols actually are very useful. So it's really ensures that the property, the important property like ID, is not overwritten by one of the applications that connects, because every application that connects can actually has their own ID, and that way it is possible to have many different IDs for the same object, because each application will use its own ID. So that's one of the use cases we can use symbols. So symbols actually it's very useful when you work in a shared environment. Okay, let's come now to case sensitivity, dynamic typing, and weak typing. So that's all for the primitive types. And to mention again, symbols a little advanced topic, but we needed to explain it today, as this is one of the primitive types. So for now, if we come to case sensitive, dynamic typing, and weak typing, let's start with the case sensitivity first. JavaScript is a case-sensitive language. This means that uppercase and lowercase letters are treated as different. So it is very important. If I define something like this, let name Alice, but if I define another name like this, actually both of them are valid, but they are different variables for JavaScript. So that's why it is case sensitive, because it does not important that we use the same characters, the same letters, if uppercase and lowercase letters are different. So as a developer, it's very important that we should be responsible with our name conversions for our variables. As a best practice, it is not a good idea to use uppercase and lowercase differentiation like this. The secure way would be always to use a different word, a different label for each variable, instead of using this functionality of JavaScript. Because if you work for a small application, then that may not cause many issues, because you can directly catch the errors as you see the whole code once. But when the applications gets complicated, and always they get complicated, it is not a good idea to have just for the sake of using the same letters, just make one uppercase, other lowercase is not a good idea. But JavaScript is case sensitive, and it allows us to work like this. Next is dynamic typing. JavaScript is a dynamically typed language, which means that variables are not bound to a specific type. You already probably catch from my examples until now. We can say like this: when we do actually the type of variable A will be, as you see, number. You see here number. So let me clear console like this. Okay, it's a number, but without changing anything, I can assign a name, a string like this. Now JavaScript automatically convert it to a string for me. As you see, now it became a string. So that's why actually we call it dynamically typed language. We can do anything we want. We can even do a boolean value like this. When I do in this case, it will automatically become a boolean type. as you see here. Again, like case sensitivity, it is not good. It wouldn't be a good practice to trust in JavaScript conversions. As a responsible developer, we should always define one variable with a proper name, with a proper type. Doing conversions like this would really decrease the readiness of our code, because somebody would just think that as the variable was as integer or number, let's say, at the top of the code, then while reading, he or she can miss that the variable turns into string. So that's why some bugs can arise, and it would be very hard to catch this kind of bugs because because normally when you look to the code you will not see any error, but you will probably very easily miss that. JavaScript actually make a conversion for you from number to string in somewhere in your code. So as a responsible programmer, developer, we should be aware of these features. When we write small applications, they may be very useful for increasing our speed, but for real professional applications, probably it would be a good idea not to use them. Okay, now let's talk about weak typing. JavaScript is like dynamically typed language, is also a weakly typed language. It's also it allows implicit type conversions. It is like dynamically typed typing, but there is a difference. Dynamic typing is for one variable like this. So just the variable and its value. According to its value, actually the type of the variable changes. So this is dynamic typing we call. But weak typing actually when two or more variables interacts, then these conversions actually implicitly happens in JavaScript. So let me show you an example. When I do something like this, actually the JavaScript will log 52. Why? Because when it sees this expression, it will consider like this plus not as an addition operation, but it will consider this as a concatenating operation. Concate operation. That's why it will implicitly convert these two into a string for us without our knowledge or without asking us actually, and it will log 52 like this. But if we do the same thing, but this time with minus, okay, as minus is the only operation that can be interpreted, subtraction is the only operation that can be interpreted when we have minus like this. So that's why it will automatically turn the string 5 into number 5, and it will do a subtraction like this. So we call it weak typing. Again, it may be very useful for small applications, for writing proof of concept code, but when you work professionally, it would not be a good idea to trust in JavaScript interpretation, JavaScript compiler interpretation, because you see, for JavaScript, there are many different interpreters out there. Like every type of browser has its own code base. Chrome is another thing. Chromium, Firefox, Edge, Opera. There are many different Safari. There are many different browsers out there. There are server-side compiler interpreter like Node.js and another server-side JavaScript interpreter. So that's the reason it is not a good idea to trust in these implementations. So as a programmer, we should be clear with our code, and if we want to write 52, then we should do like this. And if we we want to obtain the value free, it may be a good idea to write this. Obviously, while writing things like this, nobody will do implicit coercion, but in implicit conversions, which is called type coercion, by the way. But you may miss it actually when you do like this and you have something like this. Then it's very possible to miss it when we do something. So we may think that the result will be 8, but actually the result is 53. So JavaScript is a really gives the developer the freedom to write as he or she wishes, but despite this freedom, we should be very careful what we are writing. Maybe we need to be as careful as we write a Java program, let's say. Okay, we are almost finishing our first session, because we will have other sessions as well for this JavaScript training, basic training actually. So before closing this session, let me explain to you the operators. The operators are almost the same with other programming languages. As you see, we have addition, subtraction, multiplication. Always we use the same symbols here. Division, reminder. Reminder, as you already know, I guess it shows the remainder of a division operation. So here, when we divide 5 to 2, actually we obtain 1 as a reminder. That's why actually this symbol actually gives us directly the reminder. There is this increment with 2 plus. There is this decrement. We can put either in front or after of the number. We have this exponential, which is also called power, like this. We have the assignment operator, addition assignment operator, which assigns and addition at the same time when we do it. Subtraction assignment, multiplication, division, and also remainder assignment, and exponential assignment, like this. So, thank you for being here, guys. It was a good session. Before closing it, let me make some dance for you. I hope you like it. Bye bye.